The deposition lasted 6 hours. We were arguing about the word homemade, specifically whether a corporation that manufactured 3 million cookies per day in an automated facility could legally describe those cookies as homemade on the packaging. I represented the corporation. The opposing counsel represented a class action of consumers who felt deceived by grandmother imagery and script fonts that implied someone's actual grandmother had baked these cookies in an actual home. Hour 3, we were debating dictionary definitions of homemade. Hour 4, FDA regulations about manufacturing disclosures. Hour 5, consumer perception studies about what the average person thinks homemade means. Hour 6, I was reading aloud from a deposition transcript where a focus group participant said the cookies tasted like love. I billed $3,000 per hour, 6 hours, $18,000 to argue that a factory could call itself a home if you thought about it philosophically. I drove back to Manhattan from the client's New Jersey offices at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, sitting in traffic on the George Washington Bridge, and I thought, this is my life. I'm 42 years old. I make $800,000 a year. I'm a partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in New York, and I just spent my entire day defending Big Cookie's right to lie about grandmother imagery. That's when something broke. Not dramatically, no crying, no screaming, no immediate crisis, just a quiet internal collapse. A recognition that I'd spent 20 years building a career I didn't believe in, defending clients I didn't respect, arguing about things that didn't matter to anyone except the corporations paying my bills. My name is Rebecca Hartman. I'm 44 now, but I was 42 when I quit corporate law and enrolled in pastry school. 2 years later, I run a small bakery in Beacon, New York, making maybe $60,000 a year if I'm lucky. My family thinks I lost my mind. My former colleagues think I'm having a prolonged midlife crisis. My accountant keeps sending concerned emails about retirement savings, and I'm happier than I've been in 20 years. Most days. Some days I'm terrified I made a catastrophic mistake. But even on those days, I'm more alive than I ever was in a conference room arguing about cookie definitions. Let me go back. I went to Columbia Law School because that's what smart, ambitious women from middle-class families did in the late 90s. My parents, a high school teacher and a nurse, had worked relentlessly to give me opportunities they'd never had. Law school was success. Law school was security. Law school was making something of yourself. I graduated in 2003, joined Morrison & Fisk, a white shoe firm in Midtown. Started in litigation. The work was brutal. 80-hour weeks, constant stress, partners who treated associates like disposable resources. But it was prestigious. Important. The kind of job you bragged about at reunions. I made partner in 2013. 10 years of grinding. I'd sacrificed relationships, hobbies, health, sleep, everything for the partnership. And when I got it, when they announced my name at the firm retreat in front of 200 attorneys, I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just exhaustion and the knowledge that now I'd have to work even harder to justify the title. I specialized in commercial litigation, product liability, false advertising, consumer protection cases, always defending corporations, always finding ways to argue that the thing that seemed obviously wrong was actually legally permissible. I was good at it, made the firm millions in billings, made myself wealthy in the process, but I'd stopped believing in any of it somewhere around year 5. Stopped caring about the clients, stopped thinking the work mattered. I was just going through motions, billing hours, accumulating money I barely had time to spend. The only thing that brought me genuine joy was baking. I'd started as a stress relief thing in my 30s, following recipes on weekends, making cookies and cakes for the rare occasions when I wasn't working. It was meditative, creative, produced something tangible and beautiful that made people happy. The opposite of litigation, where you produced legal arguments that made corporations wealthier. I got good at it. Really good. Started making elaborate birthday cakes for friends, wedding cakes for colleagues. 3-tier creations with fondant flowers and buttercream piping and flavors I'd experiment with. Lavender honey, Earl Grey chocolate, brown butter cardamom. People would taste my cakes and say, "You should do this professionally." And I'd laugh. Can't pay off law school debt with cake. But after the homemade cookie deposition, after the quiet collapse on the GW Bridge, I started thinking, why not? I was 42. Single, marriage had failed in my early 30s, Couldn't sustain a relationship while billing 2,800 hours a year. No kids, no mortgage. I'd been renting a studio in Chelsea, too busy to buy. My parents were healthy. My student loans were paid off. I had savings. Not enough to retire, but enough to make a change. What was stopping me? Fear, mostly. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of throwing away 20 years of work and credential building. Fear of being a 42-year-old law school graduate who decided to make cupcakes for a living. But also, what was I staying for? A job I hated? Money I didn't need? The approval of people I didn't like? I started researching. Found out about pastry programs, serious ones, culinary school programs, not just weekend classes. The Institute of Culinary Education in Manhattan had a 6-month intensive pastry and baking arts program. Professional training, actual credential. I could do it. Take a leave of absence from the firm. 6 months, try it out. If I hated it, I'd come back to law. If I loved it, well, I'd figure that out. I requested a meeting with the managing partner. Jeffrey Moss, 60 years old, had been at Morrison & Fisk his entire career. He looked at me like I'd said I was joining a cult. A leave of absence? For what? Pastry school. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, I thought you said pastry school. I did. Rebecca, you're one of our top billers. You just closed the Henderson case. You're up for the client development committee. Why would you? He stopped, recalibrated. Is everything okay? Are you ill? I'm fine. I just need to do something different for a while. Different like teach or write or do pro bono work. Not different like make cookies. Why not cookies? Because you're a partner at Morrison & Fisk. Because you didn't go to Columbia Law School to become a baker. Because this is, forgive me, insane. Maybe it was insane, but I'd spent 20 years being sane and I was miserable. Maybe insane was exactly what I needed. The firm denied the leave of absence. Said if I wanted to leave, I'd have to resign. Partners don't take sabbaticals to find themselves. Partners bill hours and bring in clients and uphold the firm's reputation. So I resigned. Gave 60 days notice. Finished my active cases. Billed my final hours. And on a Friday in March 2022, I walked out of the Morrison & Fisk offices for the last time, carrying a box of personal items and a sense of vertigo so intense I had to sit down in the lobby for 10 minutes. I just quit an $800,000 a year job to make cakes. My parents were horrified. Rebecca, what are you doing? You worked so hard for this career. You can't just throw it away. I'm not throwing it away. I'm changing direction. To baking? You can bake as a hobby. You don't need to quit your job. I was dying in that job, Mom. Slowly. Every day. I need to do something that feels meaningful. Meaningful? My dad's voice was sharp. We worked our whole lives so you could have opportunities, so you wouldn't have to struggle like we did, and you're walking away from success to make cookies? How is that meaningful? I didn't have a good answer. How do you explain to people who sacrificed everything for stability that stability isn't enough? That success without satisfaction is just expensive misery? My friends, the few I had left after 20 years of law firm life, were confused, some supportive, some concerned, all skeptical. Are you sure about this? My friend Lisa asked over drinks. You're giving up everything you've built. I'm giving up something I hated to try something I might love. But what if you don't love it? What if the reality of running a bakery is nothing like baking cakes for fun? Then I'll figure something else out, but I can't spend the rest of my life wondering what if. I started pastry school in April, the Institute of Culinary Education, full-time intensive program, 6 months 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 5 days a week. I was in a class of 24 students. I was the oldest by at least a decade. Most of my classmates were in their 20s, fresh from college or career switching early. They called me Mom for the first few weeks, not maliciously, but because I was old enough to literally be their mother. I was learning to temper chocolate alongside kids who'd been born after I started law school. The work was harder than I'd expected. Not intellectually, I could follow recipes, understand techniques, but physically, standing for 6 hours, kneading dough, lifting 50-pound bags of flour. My back ached, my feet hurt. My hands, soft from 20 years of typing, developed calluses and burns, and I loved it. Loved the tangible nature of the work. Loved seeing a pile of ingredients become something beautiful. Loved the immediate feedback. A cake either rose or it didn't. A filling either set or it didn't. no ambiguity, no arguing about interpretations, just results. I learned classical French techniques: pâte à choux for eclairs, laminated dough for croissants, buttercream, ganache, pastry cream, Italian meringue, how to temper chocolate properly, how to make macarons that actually looked like macarons, how to construct multi-tiered cakes that wouldn't collapse. I failed constantly. My first batch of macarons cracked. My croissants didn't laminate properly. My Genoese cake came out dense instead of airy. But I could try again immediately, could adjust, improve, iterate. Failure in pastry school was just part of learning. Failure in litigation meant losing cases and clients and reputation. By month 3, I was good, really good, top of my class. The instructors started asking if I'd worked in pastries before. When I told them I'd been a corporate lawyer, they looked at me like I'd said I'd been an astronaut. "Why would you leave law for this?" my instructor, Chef Marie, asked one day. "Because this makes me happy, and law made me miserable." She nodded. "Fair enough. But you know the restaurant industry's brutal, right? Long hours, low pay, high failure rate. Most bakeries don't last 2 years." "I know." "And you still want to do this?" "I spent 20 years doing something I hated because it was prestigious and paid well. I'd like to try spending time doing something I love, even if it's hard." "Well, you've got the skills. Let's see if you've got the stamina." I graduated in September, top of my class. Got offered an apprenticeship at a fancy bakery in Soho. Turned it down. Didn't want to work for someone else, follow someone else's recipes, execute someone else's vision. I wanted to build something mine. I started looking outside Manhattan. Rents were insane. Competition was fierce, and I didn't want the pressure of a high-profile New York location. Found a small storefront in Beacon, New York, a town in the Hudson Valley about 90 minutes north of the city. The rent was $2,800 a month. Affordable. The town was growing, getting an artsy reputation, attracting weekenders from the city. I signed a 3-year lease, used my savings to renovate the space, buy equipment, get licensed, spent about $120,000 total, built a small kitchen, a display counter, space for a few tables. Painted the walls pale yellow. Named it Hartman's. Simple, unpretentious, mine. Opened in February 2023. Put up a sign, stocked the case with croissants and scones and a few cakes, opened the door at 7 a.m. and waited. 3 customers that first day, sold maybe $80 worth of pastries. Threw away most of the inventory at closing. Week 1, $340 in sales. Week 2, $650 in sales. Month 1, $3,200 in sales, $8,500 in expenses. I was hemorrhaging money. My savings were evaporating, and I was working harder than I'd ever worked at the law firm. Up at 4 a.m. to start baking. Worked until 7 p.m. cleaning, prepping, doing admin, 7 days a week. No days off, no weekends. Just constant work. And I was happier than I'd been in decades. The physical exhaustion was different from the psychological exhaustion of litigation. I'd finish a day completely spent, back aching, hands cramped, covered in flour, but satisfied. I'd made things, real things, tangible things. I'd watch people bite into a croissant and close their eyes with pleasure. That was worth something, but the money was terrifying. I'd gone from $800,000 a year to losing money every month. My savings were dwindling. I was 43 years old with no retirement, no health insurance beyond a catastrophic plan, no safety net. My accountant kept calling. "Rebecca, the numbers don't work. You're losing $5,000 a month. At this rate, you'll be out of money in 18 months. You need to shut down or get a loan or go back to law." "I just need more time. The business is growing." "Not fast enough. You need to triple your revenue to break even. That's not happening in the current trajectory." He was right. I knew he was right, but I couldn't quit. Not yet. Not after I'd come this far. I started doing wedding cakes. Put up a website, posted photos on Instagram, offered custom designs, got my first order in month 3, a small wedding, 60 people, simple 2-tier cake. I charged $400, spent 12 hours making it, made maybe $8 an hour after ingredients and time. But the couple loved it, posted photos, tagged me. I got 3 more inquiries that week. By month 6, I was doing 2 to 3 wedding cakes a month. Started charging more. $15 per person, minimums of $600. Added engagement cakes, birthday cakes, celebration cakes. The custom work was where the money was. The daily bakery sales covered rent and ingredients. The special orders were profit. I hired help. A part-time assistant, a college kid named Emma, who wanted to learn baking. Paid her $17 an hour. She worked mornings, helped with prep and sales. It meant I could focus on the custom work, the special orders, the things that showcased my skills. By month 9, I was breaking even. Just barely, but breaking even. Covering expenses with revenue. Still not paying myself a real salary, but surviving. My parents visited in month 10. First time seeing the bakery in person. My mom walked in, looked around at the small space, the cases of pastries, the few tables where customers sat with coffee. "This is it," she said. "This is it. It's so small. It's enough." My dad ordered a croissant, ate it slowly. "This is good," he said finally. "Really good. Thanks, Dad. But are you making money?" "I'm breaking even." "That's not making money. That's treading water." "I know, but it's growing. I'm building something." He looked at me. "You gave up $800,000 a year for this." "I gave up being miserable for this." "And you're happy? Really happy?" I thought about it. About the 4 a.m. wake-ups, the financial stress, the constant uncertainty, the physical exhaustion, the knowledge that most restaurants fail, that I was one bad month from disaster, that I'd walked away from security and prestige to pipe buttercream roses at 43. "Yeah," I said. "I'm happy. Not in a simple way, but in a real way, in a way I never was at the firm." He nodded. Didn't say he understood, but didn't argue either. Year 2 was better. I'd figured out the rhythm of the business. Knew what sold, what didn't. Refined my menu, raised my prices, got better at marketing, built relationships with local venues, got referrals from event planners, became known for wedding cakes. I made $58,000 in year 2, before taxes, a fraction of what I'd made as a lawyer, but it was mine. Money I'd earned creating things I was proud of. The doubt never went away completely. There were mornings I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and think, what have I done? I could be sleeping in a nice apartment right now. Could be making partner-level money. Could be secure. But then I'd start baking. Lose myself in the work. Watch the sunrise through the bakery windows while I shaped croissants. Hear the door chime when the first customer came in. See someone's face when they tasted something I'd made and it brought them joy. And I'd remember why I'd left. My former colleagues couldn't understand it. Ran into a few of them at events in the city. They'd ask what I was doing now, and when I said I ran a bakery, they'd react with confusion or pity, or poorly hidden judgment. "So you're done with law?" one partner asked. "Yeah, done." "That's quite a change. Do you miss it?" "Not even a little bit." "But don't you feel like you're wasting your education, all that training?" "I spent 20 years using my education to help corporations lie to consumers. Now I'm making cakes. I think I'm getting better value from my life." She didn't know what to say to that. The conversation ended awkwardly. That was the hardest part, actually. Not the work, not the money, the social judgment, the sense that people valued me less now. When I was a partner at Morrison & Fisk, people were impressed, wanted to know me, respected my opinion. Now I was a baker. Nice, but not impressive. A cute second act, but not serious. I'd traded status for satisfaction, and most days I thought it was worth it. But some days, I'd wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake, if I'd thrown away something valuable for something frivolous. My therapist. Yes, I got a therapist, because career transitions at 42 are psychologically complicated, said this was normal. You're grieving your old identity. You spent 20 years building it. You're allowed to mourn it even if you don't want it back. But I don't miss the work. You miss the respect, the status, the external validation. Those things feel good even when the work doesn't. She was right. I missed being important, missed being sought after, missed the prestige that came with the Morrison & Fisk business card. But I didn't miss the work. Not the late nights, not the meaningless arguments, not the moral compromises, not the soul-crushing tedium of defending corporations I didn't believe in. And that had to count for something. I met someone in year 2, a contractor named David who'd helped renovate the bakery when I first opened. He came back for a coffee one morning. We started talking, and it developed from there. He was kind and steady and had no idea who I'd been before the bakery. Knew me only as Rebecca, who made good cakes and worked too hard. He asked me once about my previous career. I told him I'd been a lawyer. "Why'd you leave?" I was miserable. Spent 20 years arguing about things that didn't matter. And now you're happy? I'm terrified most of the time. But yeah, I'm happy. That's brave. Or stupid, depending on the day. He smiled. I don't think it's stupid. I think it's honest. Most people just stay miserable because they're scared to change. Maybe that was it. Maybe the real change wasn't leaving law for pastry. Maybe it was choosing honesty over security, choosing a life that felt true even if it was harder, scarier, less impressive to everyone else. I'm 44 now, 2 years into the bakery. I make about $60,000 a year, work 70 hours a week, have no retirement savings, live in a small apartment in Beacon, drive a 10-year-old car. My life is smaller, simpler, less impressive than it used to be, and I'm not going back. Maybe that's the real answer. Not that I'm deliriously happy every moment. I'm not. Not that I never doubt the decision. I do. Constantly. Not that the work is easy or the money is good or the future is secure. None of that is true. But I'm not going back. Because even on the hard days, even when I'm exhausted and broke and wondering if I made a catastrophic mistake, I'm still more myself than I ever was in a law firm conference room. I make cakes. I wake up at 4 a.m. and bake croissants that smell like butter and hope. I pipe roses on wedding cakes for couples starting their lives together. I watch customers bite into something I made with my hands and see their eyes light up. It's not important work, not prestigious, not the kind of thing that impresses people at parties. But it's mine. It's real. It's honest. And maybe that's enough. My name is Rebecca Hartman. I was a corporate lawyer for 20 years. Made partner, made a lot of money. Spent 6 hours arguing about whether factory cookies could be called homemade. Drove home one night and realized I'd wasted 2 decades of my life. So I quit. Went to pastry school at 42. Opened a bakery at 43. Make a fraction of what I used to make. Work harder than I ever worked in law. Face constant uncertainty about whether the business will survive. And I've never been more sure I made the right choice. Not because it's easy, not because it's lucrative, not because it's impressive, but because when I go to bed at night, exhausted and flour-covered and worried about next month's rent, I'm not haunted by the feeling that I'm wasting my life arguing about things that don't matter. I'm building something that does matter, maybe not to the world, but to me, and to the people who walk into my bakery and taste something I made and feel for just a moment that life is sweet and good and worth savoring. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything I walked away from $800,000 a year to find, and I'd do it again, even knowing how hard it would be. Even knowing I'd lose the status and security and respect I'd worked 20 years to earn, because I'd rather be a happy baker than a miserable lawyer. And if that makes me crazy, then maybe crazy is exactly what I needed to be. If you've ever walked away from something that looked successful but felt hollow, or if you're thinking about making a change that terrifies you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit that success doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. And if you want more stories about choosing meaning over money, purpose over prestige, a like or subscribe would be appreciated. Thank you for reading and for understanding that it's never too late to become who you actually want to be.